President Trump is right. Why is the U.S. still building important parts of the F-35 outside the United States? Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about the F-35. It's been in development since the late 1990s. It's made by Lockheed Martin. It's our advanced fifth-generation stealth fighter jet, and it is built all over the world. And President Trump is raising concerns about global supply chains on such a vital component of U.S. national security. We need to keep ahead of Russia and China, but it turns out that many of the parts that are being made, including the rare earth components that are necessary to build advanced high technology circuit boards and things like that, are made in China. And we need to get rare earths back into the United States. We need to have insourced and probably NATO allied nations that are going to be producing these vital components, in the very least, if we can't get it here in the United States. But these global supply chains, they could prove deadly in the event of a conflict. And I believe President Trump is right to raise these concerns and to start to take action to bring more of our national security manufacturing back into the United States. So we're going to take a look at this. This has been, in developed since the late 1990s. It cost about $80 million per plane. This is from Defense News. When the department finalized the deal for lots 12 through 14 in October, it announced that it would reach its unit cost goal a year early in Lot 13, with those jets set to roll off the production line in 2021. The price per F-35A is set to lower from $82.4 million in Lot 12 to $79.2 million in Lot 13, down to $77.9 million in Lot 14. Now, from the beginning of the program, the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Italy, Turkey, and Australia have all participated in financing the F-35. And according to the Congressional Research Service, the F-35 is manufactured in several locations. Lockheed Martin builds the aircraft's forward section in Fort Worth, Texas. Northrop Grumman builds the midsection in Palmdale, California. And the tail is built by BAE Systems in the United Kingdom. Final assembly of these components takes place in Fort Worth. Final assembly and checkout facilities have also been established in Cameri, Italy, and Nagoya, Japan. Now, the Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine for the F-35 is produced in East Hartford and Middleton, Connecticut. Rolls-Royce builds the F-35B lift system in Indianapolis, Indiana. So a large part of these are already composed and they're put together, they're assembled in the United States. But many of the components, again, the parts are coming from all over the place. And over the next 60 years now, the fleet of F-35s is expected to cost about $1 trillion, with 2/3 of that cost in operations and sustainment. And now deficiencies in spare parts and production and sustainment for the fighter plane are costing taxpayers big time, with maintenance of the aircraft and concerns that Lockheed Martin has provided defective spare parts and an outdated technology system for the F-35. And these issues were front and center on a July 22 hearing on the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter Program by the House Oversight and Reform Committee. The members of Congress are obviously frustrated that not more is being done to get this thing off the assembly line quickly and efficiently, and now the costs are rising dramatically. And adding to concerns, though, about the outsourcing, in 2012 and 2013, the Pentagon had waived laws to keep the F-35 on track with China-made parts. This was reported in 2014 out of Reuters. The Pentagon repeatedly waived laws banning Chinese-built components on U.S. weapons in order to keep the $392 billion Lockheed Martin Corporation F-35 fighter program on track in 2012 and 2013, even as U.S. officials were voicing concern about China's espionage and military buildup. According to Pentagon documents reviewed by Reuters, Chief Arms Buyer Frank Kendall allowed two F-35 suppliers, Northrop Grumman and Honeywell, to use Chinese magnets for the new warplane's radar system, landing gears, and other hardware. Without the waivers, both companies could have faced sanctions for violating federal law, and the F-35 could have experienced further delays. So this has been going on for years with the outsourcing of these parts. Now, in addition, a Chinese-owned company, Exception PCB, based out of Gloucestershire, UK, has been manufacturing key circuit boards for the plane. The company was acquired by Shenzhen Fastprint in 2013. And this is a big deal. Chinese-owned company makes parts for British F-35 fighter jets, Ministry of Defense reveals. Now they're saying, oh, this is not a big deal. This is globalization. The company was it's a British manufacturer that was acquired by a Chinese holding company. But this could raise questions about intelligence of the F-35, which would be on site at the company, and that could somehow wind up in the hands of China. So clearly, I think President Trump is right to raise these questions. In May, in a Fox Business interview with Maria Bartiromo, President Trump outlined the problem. Let's take a listen to this.
I could tell you hundreds of stories of the stupidity that I've seen. As an example, we make a fighter jet. It's a certain fighter jet. I won't tell you which, but it happens to be the F-35, okay? It's a great jet. And we make parts for this jet all over the world. We make them in Turkey. We make them here. We make them there. All because President Obama and others, I'm not just blaming him, thought it was a wonderful thing. The problem is, if we have a problem with a country, you can't make the jet. We get parts from all over the place. It's so crazy. We should make everything in the United States.
President Trump is absolutely right. And according to a Defense News article about this interview, the Joint Strike Fighter Program, quote, which stems from efforts started in the 1990s, was structured not only to produce planes for the U.S. military, but also for key allies. Nations that wanted to be, quote, partners on the program would help foot the bill for developing the jet in exchange for work producing components of the program. So by design, kind of as a make good gesture with our allies, this was globalized and production was spread out all over the world. And now it's a big mess. And I think that this really needs to be addressed. When Bartiromo asked if it is feasible to make it in the United States, President Trump said, yeah, we're doing it because I'm changing the policies. Let's listen to that.
Will they do it?
Number one, it's better. So, yeah, we're doing it because I'm changing all those policies. Look, we make F-35s, very important, the greatest jet in the world, where the main body of the jet is made in Turkey, and then it's sent here. So what happens? We have a good relationship with President Erdogan. What happens if we don't, with me? What happens if we don't have? Are they going to say, well, we're not going to give you this, so we have to now gear up?
So President Trump, again, is absolutely right. The Turkish production of the F-35 fuselage has now been canceled because Turkey opted to purchase Russian-made air defense systems. That part of the production is now moving over to Norway and the Netherlands, according to the Congressional Research Service. The effects of the Turkish expulsion, Turkey's removal affected the F-35 in two principal areas. The first was a potential reduction in the projected number of F-35s to be produced, although as other customers have appeared and U.S. Congress ordered Turkey's F-35s to be reallocated to the U.S. Air Force, the net effect is yet to be determined. The other effects were the requirement to find replacements for the main engine overhaul facility for European F-35s, which was to have been hosted in Turkey and will now go to Norway and the Netherlands. And for Turkish suppliers participating in the program, providing parts estimated at between $5 billion and $6 billion in value over 20 years. Quote, according to U.S. officials, most of the supply chain handled by Turkish companies was due to move elsewhere by March 2020, with a few contracts in Turkey continuing until later in the year. The cost of shifting the supply chain beyond some production delays was estimated in July 2019 to be between $500 million and $600 million. The Government Accountability Office found that, quote, as of December 2019, the program identified new suppliers for all of these parts, but it still needs to bring roughly 15 parts currently produced in Turkey up to the current production rate, according to an official with the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, by accepting parts from Turkish suppliers through Lot 14. the program will have additional time to ensure new suppliers can meet demands for parts. So again, because you have a problem with Turkey, suddenly they're buying Russian air defense systems, and then the Pentagon and the White House don't want that to continue, so they halt production in Turkey, but we still require some of the parts there. So again, President Trump is right. If you have a problem with the country, then suddenly you can't produce the plane, and it's going to lead to more costs. Now, the supply chain difficulties really don't end there, though. The continued rare earth mineral shortage will surely come into play, especially if the U.S. and China should ever wind up in a military conflict or a trade war. Rare earths are used in smartphones, computers, high-tech military hardware, including the F-35, but for years, China has had a global monopoly on production. According to the Congressional Research Service, each F-35 Lightning II aircraft would require approximately 920 pounds of these materials. Here's the problem. We are 100% dependent, all of our rare earths needs, including, that's just out of the base metals. This doesn't even include the components that are made with rare earths and then shipped here to the United States. But we'd have to get the components shipped here to make them anyways. And 80% of that comes from China. And then the rest of it is coming from Estonia as well as Japan and Malaysia. 6% from Estonia and 3% from Japan and Malaysia. 8% comes from other countries. And this has been a long coming problem that finally President Trump is beginning to address with the shortfall. On July 22, 2019, President Trump invoked the Defense Production Act to get more mining here in the United States. And, quote, domestic production capability of samarium, cobalt, rare earth, permanent magnets is essential to the national defense. Without presidential action under Section 303 of the Act, United States industry cannot reasonably be expected to provide the production capability of samarium, cobalt, rare earth, permanent magnets adequately and in a timely manner. In addition, about a week before that, there was a Reuters story stating that the Pentagon races to track U.S. rare earths output amid China trade dispute. And this, according to this article, the overall goal is to secure and assure a viable domestic supplier of rare earths over the long term, according to a Pentagon paper that was sent to miners as they began assessing whether U.S. companies could get the rare earths that we need to make the military hardware that we utilize. President Trump's proclamation added further purchase commitments, and other action pursuant to Section 303 are the most cost-effective, expedient, and practical alternative method for meeting the need for this critical capability. Now, by invoking the law, the Defense Department can go ahead and fund directly the construction of rare earth mining and processing facilities. The U.S. has now consumed 13,000 metric tons of rare earth metals in 2019, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. We produced about 26,000 metric tons, but all of that had to be exported because we don't actually have processing here in the United States. So that's just another thing where we need to get what we need overseas by even mining it here and then shipping it to China to be processed. It's ridiculous. So if you actually wind up in a conflict with China, or you're going to be severely, kind of disincentivized from doing so, at least until production is online. So that gives China more latitude and leverage to threaten Taiwan, to take over Hong Kong well ahead of schedule under international treaty. And according to the U.S. Geologic Survey, the estimated value of rare earth compounds and metals imported by the United States was $170 million, an increase from $160 million in 2018. But again, these numbers do not account for rare earths used in manufacturing in China and elsewhere and then exported to the United States. And despite being in a commanding position, however, China is losing its global market share. It had 95% of global production, but that's down to about 63% right now, according to the U.S. Geologic Survey. And that's just good news all around. China is only producing 132,000 1,000 metric tons compared to 210,000. And that's way, as other countries have stepped in. So the United States is actually the #2 producer of rare earths in the entire world now, thanks to President Trump's action. We're producing 26,000 metric tons. We're mining it, but we're exporting it. We still need the processing to be brought online. Australia has ramped up production in recent years. They're at 21,000 metric tons a year. Burma's actually coming up, and they've started mining about 22,000 metric tons per year. Other countries make up the shortfalls. And again, we get about 8% from other countries, 6% from Estonia, and 3% from Japan and Malaysia. So we're meeting our needs, but we have to do it entirely by importing stuff. And so we're not really in a good position right now to produce this stuff independently, even as quickly as the Department of Defense and President Trump are acting. MP Minerals, which runs the Mountain Pass site in California's San Bernardino County, the nation's only operational rare earth facility, has finally gotten back online. But even then, we're still shipping what we have overseas to be processed. Australia has ramped up production, as we mentioned, and a discovery of 16 million tons of rare earth oxides off the coast of Japan last year could supply the minerals for the entire world for centuries. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Japan hopes rare earth find will give it an edge against China. Tokyo. This is from April 11, 2018. Japan has hundreds of years worth of rare earth metal deposits in its waters, according to new research that reflects Tokyo's concern about China's hegemony over minerals used in batteries and electric vehicles. The deposits were found in the Pacific Ocean seabed near remote Minamotori Island, about 1,150 miles southeast of Tokyo. Extracting them will likely be costly, but resource-poor Japan is pushing ahead with research in hopes of getting more control over next-generation technologies and weapon systems. And so, Japan can help us out with rare earth production. So can Australia. We need to be working with our allies who we have an interest in defending. That we're not going to be stuck suddenly in a conflict and we can't produce military hardware that we need to control the skies. Our national security domination worldwide, frankly, is based off not only having satellites all over, but having air power that can take out enemy forces on the ground. If we lose the skies, you lose everything. And I'll leave you with the close here. Overall, it is up to Congress to require that the F-35 and its parts and components, including the rare earths mining and processing, be insourced to the extent that is practical. President Trump is right. We shouldn't be dependent on Chinese parts and such large global supply chains that would surely be taxed in the event of a conflict. Air power is one of the most vital components to our national security, without which we cannot win, and the U.S. should never be in a position where it could ever be questioned, especially not due to outsourcing. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.